So unless you've been living under a rock, AI is in the news. AI is everywhere. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about AI, talk about generative AI breakthroughs. That's pretty much what you're hearing in the news is generative AI with these ChatGPT, Cloud, the Anthropic solution response to ChatGPT. Less than a year after its debut, 1/3 of organizations are already using generative AI. That's a pretty high adoption rate pretty quickly. Company leaders, including C-suite executives, are personally engaging with these tools. Everybody's curious. It's the biggest innovation since in the last 30 years, in my opinion. So in terms of its adoption and use and how many people have heard of it, according to McKinsey, 79% of respondents have been exposed to generative AI, both personally and professionally. And there's all kinds of things people are doing with it right now. I think there's a shortage in applications, but there's definitely an inquisitiveness and an explosion of what people are going to be doing in the next few years with these tools. The technology is still in its early days, but it's already transforming industries. Organizations anticipate workforce changes, including reskilling efforts and workforce reductions, which can be kind of scary and disruptive. Overall adoption of AI tools, however, has remained steady over the last year. Again, it's only the last year or two that this thing's kind of taken off. So in this episode, what I want to do is I want to discuss the definition and different types of AI, narrow versus specialized AI versus general AI. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the brief history and evolution of AI and the current state and the key AI technologies that are being used right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the AI systems that we are already using, things that might be interesting to discuss, and then potential benefits and challenges and the risk of AI. So with that, let's get started. Welcome to the latest episode of Corner Your Market. I'm your host, Sailes Kimide. In this podcast, I talk about all things digital marketing, from website design and development to SEO and PPC, as well as paid media marketing and email marketing, as well as social and anything in between. If you're a small business owner, a marketing manager in a company, or an entrepreneur, this podcast is for you. So tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. You'll gain some practical insights, new strategies, tactics, and tools that will help you grow your business. I provide helpful information to business owners like you to help your business. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and share this content. In terms of understanding AI, let's start with the definitions and the different types of AI, okay? So when discussing AI, we encounter some categories here. Let's break them down. So there's artificial narrow intelligence, which is called narrow AI, also known as weak AI. And this is actually the type of AI that currently exists. I would even argue that we are one step below that, to be honest with you, because AI, if you break it down, means artificial intelligence, right? So it has to have a certain degree of intelligence. And I don't know that these systems are really as intelligent as you think they are, because if you compare human intelligence, which is at this level, I would say they're below the surface of this laptop thing. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're just listening on the radio or on your device, you might not know what I'm talking about because I just moved my hand up and down. But what we have right now are machines that can do very narrow tasks, right? So for instance, writing an essay, very narrow task. Siri is a form of AI. Amazon's Alexa is a form of AI, right? They do very narrow tasks. You ask Siri a little bit of a complicated question, and all that system does is give you a web page with search results, which is not what intelligence would do. There's a little bit of a higher standard of a definition when it comes to AI, to intelligence. So what we have right now is really narrow AI, that can perform very, very specific tasks, maybe mundane tasks, analyzing spreadsheets, mundane tasks of automating things that may be collapsing 5 steps that the human needed to do into 1 step that the human can do. So that's kind of where the narrow AI and most of everything right now is. Obviously the goal, the next level of that would be the artificial general intelligence, AGI. And I think ChatGPT's mission is to create AGI, which is kind of scary when you look at the definition of AGI. It's very theoretical, pretty much theoretical at this point. AGI would basically mean that this system would possess the capacity to learn, think, and perform at levels comparable to humans. So you can basically swap out humans at that level. Comparing it to narrow AI, AGI could tackle new tasks without requiring human intervention. So they could self-learn. Kind of like the self-awareness of the Terminator, Skynet, when it became self-aware, it became AGI, right? But we're very far away from Skynet. It remains a concept. It will remain a concept for several decades, maybe even throughout the century. Who knows? Super AI is artificial super intelligence. Obviously, this is a science fiction thing. AI that thinks, reasons, learns, and makes judgments beyond our own capabilities. That would be artificial super intelligence. Very, very high level. Not something that, I think we would need quantum computers at the nth level to be able to create something like that. And then at that point, I think that's the kind of AI that we fear, right? Something that is better than us. I don't know that we fear AGI maybe as much. Maybe we do, but super AI definitely is at another level. So that's a little bit of a breakdown of the different categories of AI that we're talking about. And then in terms of the history and the evolution of AI, I like to provide people a little bit of a background because this didn't just come out of nowhere. It's definitely a 20th century concept. The first digital computers really didn't come about until about 8 decades ago. So 1930s is where we'd be putting it, maybe 40s. There was a brilliant British mathematician, logician, somebody that specializes in logic, and a computer and a pioneer in computer science. His name was Alan Turing. You guys have probably never heard of him. I'd never heard of him. And I did a degree in physics. I never heard of this guy. But he basically was playing around with these concepts in the 20s and 30s, which is mind-boggling to me, about 100 years ago. So I guess the British didn't have much to do at the time. They controlled much of the world, so their mathematicians were just sitting around imagining AI. But in the 1950s, there was a gentleman by the name of Claude Shannon, an American mathematician, electrical engineer, computer scientist, and cryptographer. He is considered the father of information theory, the flow of information. He built a remote-controlled mouse that could navigate a labyrinth and remember its course. So that's quite amazing that he did that in the 50s. And so he proposed this idea of machine intelligence as a method for assessing whether a machine can exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. So that's the 1950s. And obviously, the imagination or the idea took off into the creative realm. And then in the 1960s, symbolic AI and expert systems were developed. Honestly, I don't know what all those things mean. I just did a little bit of research on this to kind of figure out what the history is. All I know is in the 1960s, in 1968 to be specific, Space Odyssey 2001 came out. And I love that movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. HAL 9000 is the conscious machine that talks through that red lens, that red light. And the amazing thing about this movie is there's not a lot of human dialogue in this movie. It's about space travel. They're going to Saturn. These 2 astronauts and HAL 9000 are going to Saturn. And then something happens. The computer makes a mistake, actually. and then they have to leave the machine to go outside to fix it, and then on re-entry, the machine doesn't want them to come back in. There's this really famous dialogue where Dave, one of the astronauts, asks HAL 9000 to do something, and HAL 9000 responds and says, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that." That's super intelligence, right? Not only is it at a level of the human, but it is independently making decisions and self-aware, maybe ashamed of the fact that it made a mistake, and I don't know. So it's been a few years since I watched that movie, so I can't really give you an accurate description right now. But if you're gonna start, those keyboard warriors that are now gonna start typing me nasty notes because I may not have accurately depicted that scene, hold your horses. It's been a while for me. Send me a love note instead of your keyboard warrior notes. But anyway, so that's kind of the popular imagination of AI. And obviously, in terms of research, the 1970s and the 1980s is considered the winter of AI. Not a lot of stuff happened. Funding declined. I guess with the moon missions being accomplished, I think Congress was probably feeling a little weary about funding pie in the sky projects, literally. Funding declined due to unmet expectations, because I think the expectations just shot through the roof. I mean, this is before, you had operating systems in the consumer level. This is before you had the level of computing power. You still had, warehouses full of drives to, store information. I mean, so the expectations were just way out of control, unmet expectations. And so funding declines, and after funding declines, there's a little bit of an AI winter. And then in the 1990s, with the explosion of the PC, and then all that kind of stuff, it kicks back up. This is when IBM's Deep Blue defeated the world chess champion Garry Kasparov, the Russian dude. That was I remember that as being a monumental moment. I think I was in college. They played like 4 or 5 times, and then I think a Deep Blue beat Garry, I think in 97 or 98. I remember reading about that, thinking, wow. But if you think about it, chess is a narrow AI level thing, right? There's defined movements, there's defined spaces. It's very well defined. So you can use brute computing force to basically, master a human being. So it's an achievement, but it's not really an achievement in so many levels. And then in the 2000s, you have big data and deep learning. This data collection becomes cheap, storage becomes cheap. And so with storage being cheap, you can collect all kinds of data, right? You can collect any kind of data you want. And so because AI relies on data, and so all that data tracking that they're doing, purchase history, interactions, clicks, whatever people are doing, all of a sudden that information is stored somewhere and you can start mining that information. The 2010s saw a resurgence in AI with new applications. And then DeepMind's AlphaGo defeated Human Go champion. So I'm not exactly sure what all that means, but I got it in my notes. I should have read this a little bit earlier, but it's okay. And then in the 2010s, you have natural language processing systems start to develop, right? You could talk to chatbots. You could say things to a computer. Siri was introduced somewhere around the 2010s, I think 2015, 2014. And then AI applications are starting to be used in healthcare, autonomous vehicles, virtual learning expanded, and all that kind of stuff. And then here we are in the 2020s with the decade really starting out with generative AI, creating new content based on existing data and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's kind of the brief history of AI. So I want my audience to be educated on the history of AI, the types of AI, what the history is, and all that kind of stuff. So where are we now? 2024. We are in the first quarter of 2024. What are the things that are really hot right now? Obviously, generative AI. Generative AI, as in ChatGPT, I prefer Cloud 3, Anthropic, much better solution than ChatGPT, in my humble opinion. I only use that. So tech companies started focusing on making AI more accessible to everyone. You have Copilot on Bing, which I use quite a bit as well. It's very, very interesting using it. There's a cap. You got to pay. Otherwise, you hit a cap. But then if you have multiple browsers, it's AI, but it can't tell that you're coming from multiple browsers, So I just run out of tickets on one, and then I go to the next one, and then I go to the next one. I don't know why that AI can't tell, that it's the same person. But anyway, so that's kind of gives you an idea of the state of AI. And then generative AI obviously is a big one. Then there's the multimodal AI. It just means multi-point, right? Because generative AI is typically text. Multimodal AI is beyond text. You can put images, you can do video. I think ChatGPT has Sora, which has done some amazing video concepts and things like that. They have DALL-E 3. There's Midjourney, which is an amazing tool for creating artwork from AI. So those are some very, natural language processing. Computer vision is another one. Computer can be watching you and pinpoint things. I heard somebody talk about the level of video surveillance in China is so they're using AI with video surveillance. So to the point where these cameras can even tell where your eye is looking. So not only can they tell that this person is walking down the street, but that they're looking at this particular item maybe that they see on the street or something like that. Really, really, I think that this kind of tool in the hands of an authoritarian regime like China is just scary, is just very scary. Which brings up the ethical question, to be honest with you. I mean, AI regulation and ethics, I mean, the computing power that is going to be unleashed, AI power in the next 10 years, could very well exceed the regulations that we have and the ethical capacity for us to really deal with it, right? People are always talking about bias, but I think that's one of the least concerning part of the ethical considerations. I mean, if you've managed any kind of web server, just the sheer volume of attacks you get is amazing. So can you imagine if somebody unleashed an AI bot against servers? I mean, you could take down entire cities' grid system with an AI hacker. You know what I mean? So I think those are much more scary to me than bias issues that all these big tech companies keep talking about. So anyway, but I think regulators are going to step up. But the thing is that as much as AI scares me, regulators scare me as well. So I don't know, man. We'll have to figure that out, especially the European Union regulators and the Biden administration, trying to do all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so that's one of the concerns of AI in terms of the current state. I think we have to talk about that. Some of the more promising, exciting uses of AI would be in drug discovery and healthcare. Just the sheer volume of data that they can analyze, what they can see with AI vision, things like that, and pinpointing things with personalized medicine, diagnostics, and patient care and things like that. So there's a lot there that's happening. So I'm by no means an expert. I'm just trying to give you an overview of everything. So in terms of examples of AI applications that we already use, voice assistants is one, right? Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, they're all AI powered. I think Siri's fallen behind quite a bit. It's quite lame compared to some of the other ones at this point. I mean, setting reminders, getting answers to basic questions, controlling smart home devices, that's all. See, I don't like the term AI in that because I think those are just machine learning type things. You're just teaching a robot or a system to follow a set of. There's no intelligence in that. It's just doing things. These virtual assistants. Maybe there is. What I'm trying to say is, I think AI is a higher standard than what these guys are doing. If you think about it, those recommendation systems that Amazon has, if you like this, you might also like this. That's a form of AI. Spotify does the same thing with their music. Netflix does the same thing with movies. They can, if I watch, 20 hours of this show, then like Breaking Bad, and then it's going to recommend that I watch, Sopranos or something like that, right? So image recognition, Facebook and Instagram employ AI to recognize faces and photos. That one is really fascinating to me because facial recognition is one of those things that scares me. I don't know why. It just scares me. I was checking into a flight a couple months ago at the airport, and I noticed that one of the airlines was putting this facial recognition lenses at the entry point before you board. The human being was doing the check-in, but this machine was there. And I don't know if I'm really correct. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but I imagined that people are looking into this and then they're verifying that this person is actually boarding. I know that they have facial recognition now at the TSA line when you're going through the checkup. So I guess the government already has my picture. I'm not too worried about that, I guess. But now that they can scan my face and know who I am. I mean, I don't know, this imaginary intelligence scanning my face seems like a little bit of a violation. I don't know. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe it's my age showing. Natural language processors, obviously, we've already talked about those. Healthcare management, I talked on that. Automated financial investing, that's another one that's very fascinating to me. AI algorithms can predict stock market trends, optimize investment portfolios. An interesting use case I heard last week is with the National Association of Realtors and the lawsuit with the buyer commission and all that kind of stuff happening. This one guy online was postulating that maybe the listing agent, you really don't need a buyer's agent or a listing agent. Maybe a lot of the tasks could be done by AI. And so the person that is actually doing the person work could be paid a lot less because all the forms and everything like that are standard. All the processes are pretty standard. An AI assistant could follow all of that for you, but the human just steps in with the negotiation and something like that. So in which case you don't need to give up 6% of your commission. So interesting concept, interesting idea. I'm not endorsing it one way or another. So NAR keyboard warriors, hold your horses. And then social media monitoring, obviously, that's being deployed quite amazingly and quite robustly by these companies to monitor. Computer vision and navigation and travel, I would think autopilot. Traffic conditions, rerouting people. I wonder if, based on data, Google Maps can reroute you to a different location, different thing. Self-driving cars, amazing stuff happening there. I'm not a video game guy, but I'm sure AI in video games is quite amazing. I was talking to a guy yesterday who has a company where you wear these virtual glasses, kind of like the Apple thing. And then they have taken these high, like 8K versions of these people, of a camera falling down a cliff. So you basically put that on and it simulates you actually falling into a cliff or something like that. And it gives you that bungee jumping experience without ever having to do bungee jumping. Interesting concept. I feel like my brain would short circuit because my body is not feeling everything, but all my visuals are saying that I'm falling. So I don't know. That kind of stuff makes me feel like I'm going to go insane. But anyway, that's just my age showing. I'm sure the kids are going to be okay. So we've talked a lot about AI. We've talked a lot about its history. We've talked a lot about what it can do and all that kind of stuff. But what is the benefit for your business, right? Because we're business people. We want benefits, baby. We want benefits. Well, not in that way. Not government benefits. We want benefits, meaning from the tools we deploy. Efficiency and automation is obviously the first one that comes to mind. AI can help you automate repetitive tasks, freeing up human resources for more creative and strategic work. Businesses can streamline processes, reduce costs, and improve productivity. I recently signed up for an AI platform where they're going to take a video of me, and basically they're going to take maybe a 20-second video of me talking, doing things, and then they're basically going to use that video of me to generate a version of me online that all I would have to do is maybe type up the notes on what I want to say, and then this vision of me is going to say it. So what you see on YouTube may not even be me doing it. It's just the version of me doing it. So that one's interesting to me from a productivity standpoint, because obviously producing a podcast and doing all this work takes a lot of time. If all I had to do was the research and put my notes together and I could just feed it into this AI tool that then generated the video and edited it and made it look really like it was me, I think I'd be up for that. I'd pay for that. So Anyway, enhanced decision making. Obviously, AI can analyze a vast amount of data much quicker than you and I could. So in places like AI, in healthcare, AI can be used by doctors in diagnosing disease and recommending treatments. So I think enhanced decision making is definitely one of the benefits. Personalization on a marketing standpoint, coming back to marketing, personalization. I think a lot of companies have done a really good job of personalization, but I think it could be a lot better. But I also see the downside of it, at least in certain categories. Like if you personalize your Twitter feed, that means you're not hearing an opinion other than what you already agree with. It's an echo chamber. If you personalize your Facebook feed, same thing. You're not going to see anybody you don't like. You don't have to listen to things or do things that you don't agree with. You can just hate people then, so that's the downside of it. Improved customer experience. I think chatbots have come a long way. I think there's going to come a day when we will never talk to a customer service person again. I think it's all going to be done by AI. Obviously, scientific advancements going to take a huge boost from AI. There's obviously ethical considerations. I've already kind of mentioned it to you. Data privacy and security is another one that really makes me nervous. I mean, I've been in some, data breaches. My data has been compromised. They say, I don't know how true it is, but they say that if you get a very high volume of spam calls on your phone, then the possibility is that your information was compromised in some data hack. And I get an insane amount of calls on my phone. So, so it's probably on a data hack somewhere. But AI, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be, as they create these systems, the nefarious characters, Dr. Nefarious is going to go out there and create nefarious hacking AI tools based on AI and hacking tools based on AI that are just going to be that much harder to beat up or beat and stay protected from. So I could see that being a pretty big issue. Larger trends, job displacement. This is kind of where I'm glad that I was born in the right time, because I wonder if you're in your 20s and you're starting out your career, if you're going to still be working in your 50s. I don't know. There's going to be tremendous job displacement. Different kinds of jobs are going to go away, and only certain type of jobs are going to be created out of that. So you have to have intellectual power. You have to be good in math. You have to be good in reasoning, logic. You have to be able to use your brain. So for those of you guys that maybe, feel intimidated by that, you'll just have to, figure out what you're going to do. So, hey, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but I'm just saying the job displacement's real. So those are the kinds of benefits that you can realize from AI. So the point of this episode for me was to really give everybody a primer on AI. I get asked AI in digital marketing. I'm going to talk about that in a next episode, in a future episode. But for now, I wanted to kind of have a baseline where you understood what AI is, had a history of AI, had an understanding of the different levels of AI, and things like that, and then give you a baseline from where you can get started. So hope that was helpful. With that, I'm going to end here, but it's not exactly a marketing related topic necessarily, but definitely something that marketers are using and that marketers are going to be influenced by moving into the future. So just thought I'd put that out there. So hopefully you guys learned something really exciting and interesting from this episode. With that, we'll move on to our next one. So happy marketing, y'all.